the Upanishads in two parts. Part 2, translated by F. Max Muller. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, first Adhyaya, fifth Brahmana. When the Father of creation had produced by knowledge and penance, work, the 7 kinds of food, one of his foods was common to all beings. 2 he assigned to the devas. 3 he made for himself. 1 he gave to the animals. In it all rests whatsoever breathes and breathes not. Why then do these not perish, though they are always eaten? He who knows this imperishable one, he eats food with his face. He goes even to the devas. He lives on strength. When it is said that the Father produced by knowledge and penance the 7 kinds of food, it is clear that it was he who did so. When it is said that one of his foods was common, then that is that common food of which is eaten. That was his. He who worships, eats that common food, is not removed from evil, for verily that food is mixed property. When it is said that 2 he assigned to the devas, that is, the huta, which is sacrificed in fire, and the prahuta, which is given away at a sacrifice. But they also say the new moon and the full moon sacrifices are here intended, and therefore one should not offer them as an ishte, or with a wish. When it is said that 1 he gave to animals, that is milk, for in the beginning, in their infancy, both men and animals live on milk, and therefore they either make a newborn child lick grita butter, or they make it take the breast, and they call a newborn creature atranada, i.e., not eating herbs. When it is said that in it all rests whatsoever breathes and breathes not, we see that all this whatsoever breathes and breathes not rests and depends on milk. And when it is said in another Brahmana that a man who sacrifices with milk a whole year overcomes death again, let him not think so. No, on the very day on which he sacrifices, on that day he overcomes death again. For he who knows this offers to the entities the entire food, viz. Milk. When it is said, why do these not perish, though they are always eaten? We answer, verily the person is the imperishable, and he produces that food again and again. When it is said, he who knows this imperishable one, then verily the person is the imperishable one, for he produces this food by repeated thought, and whatever he does not work by his works, that perishes. When it is said that he eats food with his face, then face means the mouth. He eats it with his mouth. When it is said that he goes even to the devas, he lives on strength. That is meant as praise. When it is said that he made 3 for himself, that means that he made mind, speech, and breath for himself. As people say, my mind was elsewhere. I did not see. My mind was elsewhere. I did not hear. It is clear that a man sees with his mind and hears with his mind. Desire, representation, doubt, faith, want of faith, memory, forgetfulness, shame, reflection, fear, all this is mind. Therefore, even if a man is touched on the back, he knows it through the mind. Whatever sound there is, that is speech. Speech indeed is intended for an end or object. It is nothing by itself. The up-breathing, the down-breathing, the back-breathing, the out-breathing, the on-breathing, all that is breathing is breath, prana. Only, verily, that self consists of it, and that self consists of speech. mind, and breath. These are the three worlds. Earth is speech, sky, mind, heaven, breath. These are the three Vedas. The Rig Veda is speech, the Yajur Veda, mind, the Samaveda, breath. These are the Devas, fathers, and men. The Devas are speech, the fathers, mind, men, breath. These are father, mother, and child. The father is mind, the mother is speech, the child breath. These are what is known, what is to be known, and what is unknown. What is known has the form of speech, for speech is known, speech having become this protects man. What is to be known has the form of mind, for mind is what is to be known, mind having become this protects man. What is unknown has the form of breath, for breath is unknown, breath having become this protects man. Of that speech, which is the food of the Paragapata. Earth is the body, light the form, viz. The fire, and so far as speech extends, so far extends the earth, so far extends fire. Next of this mind, heaven is the body, light the form, viz. This sun. And so far as this mind extends, so far extends heaven, so far extends the sun. If they, fire and sun, embrace each other, then wind is born, and that is Indra, and he is without a rival. Verily, a second is a rival, and he who knows this has no rival. Next of this breath, water is the body, light the form, viz. This moon. And so far as this breath extends, so far extends water, so far extends the moon. These are all alike, all endless, and he who worships them as finite obtains a finite world, but he who worships them as infinite obtains an infinite world. That, Pragapata, is the year, and he consists of 16 digits. The nights, indeed, are his 15 digits. The fixed point is 16th digit. He is increased and decreased by the nights. Having on the new moon night entered with the 16th part into everything that has life, he is thence born again in the morning. Therefore, let no one cut off the life of any living thing on that night, not even a lizard, in honor Pugartham of that entity. Now verily, that Pragapata, consisting of 16 digits, who is the year, is the same as a man who knows this. His wealth constitutes the 15 digits, his self the 16th digit. He is increased and decreased by that wealth. His self is the knave, his wealth the felly. Therefore, even if he loses everything, if he lives but with his self, people say, he lost the felly, which can be restored again. Next, there are verily three worlds, the world of men, the world of the fathers, the world of the Devas. The world of men can be gained by a sun only, not by other work. By sacrifice, the world of the fathers, by knowledge, the world of the Devas is gained. The world of the Devas is the best of worlds, therefore they praise knowledge. Next follows the handing over. When a man thinks he is going to depart, he says to his son, thou art Brahman, the Veda, so far as acquired by the father. Thou art the sacrificer. So far as performed by the father. Thou art the world. The son answers, I am Brahman, I am the sacrifice, I am the world. Whatever has been learnt by the father, that taken as one is Brahman. Whatever sacrifices there are, they taken as one are the sacrifice. Whatever worlds there are, they taken as one are the world. Verily, here ends this. What has to be done by a father? Feast, study, sacrifice, and so on. He, the son, being all this, preserved me from this world. Thus he thinks. Therefore, they call a son who is instructed to do all this a world son. Lokya. And therefore they instruct him. When a father who knows this departs this world, then he enters into his son altogether, with his own spirits, with speech, mind, and breath. If there is anything done amiss by the father, of all that the son delivers him, and therefore he is called Putra, son. By help of his son, the father stands firm in this world. Then these divine immortal spirits, speech, mind, and breath, enter into him from the earth, and from fire divine speech enters into him, and verily that is divine speech, whereby whatever he says comes to be. From heaven and the sun divine mind enters into him, and verily that is divine mind, whereby he becomes joyful and grieves no more. From water and the moon divine breath, spirit, enters into him, and verily that is divine breath which, whether moving or not moving, does not tire, and therefore does not perish. He who knows this becomes the self of all beings. As that entity, Haranyaka, is, so does he become. And as all beings honor that entity, sacrifice and so on, so do all beings honor him who knows this. Whatever grief these creatures suffer, that is all one, and therefore disappears. Only what is good approaches him. Verily evil does not approach the devas. Next follows the consideration of observances, acts. Pragapata created the actions, active senses. When they had been created, they strove among themselves. Voice held, I shall speak. The eye held, I shall see. The ear held, I shall hear. And thus, the other actions too, each according to its own act. Death, having become weariness, took them and seized them. Having seized them, death held them back from their work. Therefore speech grows weary, the eye grows weary, the ear grows weary, but death did not seize the central breath. Then the others tried to know him and said, verily, he is the best of us. He who, whether moving or not, does not tire and does not perish, well, let all of us assume his form. Thereupon they all assumed his form, and therefore they are called after him breaths, spirits. In whatever family there is a man who knows this, they call that family after his name, and they who strive with one who knows this withers away and finally dies. So far with regard to the body. Now with regard to the entities. Agni, fire, held, I shall burn. Aditya, the sun, held, I shall warm. Chandramas, the moon, held, I shall shine. And thus also the other entities, each according to the entity. And as it was with the central breathing among the breaths, so it was with Vayu, the wind, among those entities. The other entities fade, not Vayu. Vayu is the entity that never sets. And here there is this sloka. He from whom the sun rises and into whom it sets. Verily, he rises from the breath and sets in the breath. Him, Devas, made the law. He only is today, and he tomorrow also. Whatever these Devas determine then, that they perform today also. Therefore let a man perform one observance only. Let him breathe up, and let him breathe down, that the evil death may not reach him. And when he performs it, let him try to finish it. Then he obtains through it union and oneness with that entity, with prana. And so perform today also in the parentheses here of verse 23, the prana vratra and vayu vratra. So as much as there's these forces of nature and stuff, there's a Devi or a light being, well, Deva, I guess Devi is the female of this, so they're not. Of course, even when we use the gender, it doesn't mean that these things are necessarily male or female, but the breath is, of course, closer to this spiritual nature, so that's why the term was used. That makes sense, rather than it's like, why are we using Ruch and Nipish? I don't know if there's a comparable story that makes it as clear as this for why things are called that. Verse 21, the observances, the upasana, or meditative worship. Verse 20, all one. Individuals suffer because one causes grief to another. But in the universal soul, where all individuals are one, their sufferings are neutralized. And, well, we are referring to everything else through ourselves, well, through the vehicles that we are in personally. So that's definitely something to consider. Karapokaranian got that point right. The Manushya Loka, not the Pitra Loka, and the Deva Loka, says the commentator, infirm in this world. The sun, the commentator derives putra from pu, pur, to fill, and tra, Tra, to deliver, a deliverer who fills the holes left by the father, a stopgap. So the child stage, you reach puberty, you develop things further, you carry on what's best, you leave stuff or correct stuff, or, Others derive it from put, a hell, and tra, protect, as in Manu 9:138. So what the term for sun is protection from hell. That's a pretty interesting one. Rohrer seems to have read Samnaya, all this multitude. I read Etanma sarvam sannayam etoa bunangadet, in the place of preserved from this world, in verse 17. And the Madhyandina text, page 1054, has this Brahmana as a whole. And so we divide the first verse assigned to the Devas, and it's the first verse in another way. In it all this rests, whatever breathes and breathes not, would be the second verse in that way of looking at it. Why then do these not perish, though they are always eaten? He who knows this imperishable one, he eats food with his face. Third verse, he who goes even to the Devas, he lives on to strength. That would be the fourth verse, but then we start the second verse here. Mixed property, it belongs to all beings, in the second verse in the other reading. And the implication, the whole year, 360 sacrificial days, each with 2 oblations, i.e. 720 oblations. And then you have the 5 or 6 other days in the year, right? Those who enjoy food become themselves creators, or spiritually work with it, right? Instead of being senseless or useless eaters. That's a triggering phrase to some people, so I figured I'd throw that one in. See Deussen Vedanta, page 358. Here's with his mind, verse 3. Firmness and strength, the memory, also verse 3. I'm saying too much. When I should be saying Om, because I'm trying to turn the page. Okay, the food speech, having become known, can be consumed. And we have verse 3 broken into... Oh, no, we don't. Okay. The protecting of man, verse 10, this was Adve Bautika, with reference to Bhutas, beings. Next follows the Evika, with reference to the Devas. And the nights, indeed, are 15 digits, verse 14, meant for Nich Demara. And also the fixed point of 16, when he's just invisible at the new moon. And